In the bunkhouse, the slowly disappearing light shimmered through the windows on the dark, brown wooden walls that made up the bunkhouse. Against the wall was a bunk, and there sat a tall figure in denim clothing, his balding head glistening ever so slightly in the sun. Suddenly, the door opened with a loud creak, and in walked a man wearing a white shirt with dark brown trousers and light brown gloves. He had a face of permanent, quiet anger. Walking towards the bunk ahead of the man in denim clothing, he sat on it. "Lennie, I'm back." Lennie looked up wildly before noticing George. He had been caught off guard. His tone reflected this as he said, George, what are you doing here? I thought you was bucking barley." He was bewildered. George replied quickly, "Bit of an odd question, isn't it? This is my own bunk. I should be allowed to shelter at my own convenience." Lennie pondered for a few seconds before answering, "I would suppose so, yes, George." "Yes, I do suppose. Now, for what I came for. Where's my puppy, Lennie? My little furry man?" "I don't know, George. Honest to God, I don't." "You don't seem to know much of anything, do you, you crazy bastard?" George replied in a sudden anger. "He's with Slim or one of the others," Lennie replied quickly in fear of George. "It's just an educated guess." "Oh, an educated guess? What school did you go to, Lennie? You must have some degree to back up that claim of yours." "George, what's wrong? You're scaring me," Lennie said in a fright. "Would you care for a bean, Lennie? I even got ketchup for you," George said, holding out a single bean covered in orange liquid that dripped towards the floor. "No, thank you, George. I said I'd leave it all to you, remember?" Lennie replied. "That's the only damn thing you remember, crazy bastard," George replied, as he popped the bean into his mouth, chewing loudly. "You've never been grateful for the things I've given you." George! "Are you deaf as well as stupid?" George replied aggressively. "I said you've never been grateful for the things I've given you. Only there to buck barley I gave you. Farming equipment." "No, I don't think I am, George," Lennie yelled in anger. "Tell me, Lennie, how many times have you lost in a game of horseshoes?" "Horseshoes?" "Horseshoes?" "Yes, horseshoes. Do you listen to anything I say?" "I don't think I've been playing, George." "Of course you have. You've been playing your entire life. You just now know it." From thin air, George produced a bean. He held it so Lennie could see it. "Lennie, I want you to toss this bean into my mouth." "But George, you have your hands. Can't you use them?" "Lennie, throw the bean into my mouth." Lennie hesitated before flicking the bean toward George. It flew through the air before smacking against one of George's cheeks. A look of disappointment crossed George's face. "Uh-oh, it looks like a major error has landed Lennie in the fight of his life. Will he suffer another brutal beatdown, or will he live to see another day? Find out next time